free speech. So this is, let me put this in context a little bit from my perspective, and hopefully get to open this up quickly here. As a public university, we from time to time obviously have a lot of various points of view and perspectives offered openly on this campus. And that's in keeping with certainly our educational traditions, but also legally with First Amendment rights in the Constitution of the United States. And we celebrate freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We support that fully, but we also realize that there's aspects of doing business, normal operations of the university that have to be considered too. So there's often balances that have to be struck with these things. We have policies about facilities use on campus that we try to adhere to and try to enforce as well as possible. Sometimes we get into some unexplored territory that causes us all to sort of rethink those things, and so it's an evolving process. It's a continual process. I think it's a healthy process actually. But not only do students and faculty and staff share this benefit of freedom of expression, but as a public institution, the public at large have that opportunity within certain framework on this campus as well. And so, as you probably have all experienced from time to time, we have external groups that come to campus with a point of view to express. And we try to accommodate that as appropriate for our educational mission and in keeping with First Amendment rights. But we also try to keep it in the boundaries of being able to maintain the educational environment that we want to have on campus. And so, there are some judgment calls here and there, and we're going to continue to work on this. We're going to continue to work on our facilities use policy that allows for this and indicates groups that come to campus what rules they have to abide by as well. We can probably get into some of those details as we get into the conversation. The one thing I would stress here, however, as a public university, we are absolutely obligated to be content neutral. It doesn't matter the point of view that comes to campus. However personally objectionable or personally supportive I may be to that particular point of view, that's not the point. For us to be able to all realize the benefit of freedom of expression, we have to open it up for everyone as well. So with that, I'm sure there are some perspectives in here and some concerns possibly that have arisen. I'd like to hear from everybody here. What's on your mind and what do you think about it? This is a time, we are an educational institution, and I think this is a great time for all of us to learn from our personal experiences and learn from each other as well. So, what do you think? Yeah.
How do you feel that TTU addresses its own policy of harassment on campus when you have inescapable things like a gentleman who screams negative things at students walking through South Patio, or a truck that circles campus that is completely unavoidable regardless of what you do? Do you feel or do you not feel that that violates the harassment policy by creating a work environment and an education environment that is hostile and abusive?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that perspective. And this is an area, obviously, we would all agree or disagree to various extents, probably. I think legally, we have the responsibility of allowing people to say what they want, okay, as long as it is not creating a hostile work environment, which in a public space, I think, I'm looking at Kay here for a second, with legal counsel, but I think with public spaces, like a public street, or public spaces in terms of, south patio, where individuals would have options to avoid if they chose to. I think that's where we need to be. Is that a fair statement?
That is, and in addition, those things that create, the anti-harassment, the statutes that create the anti-harassment, also recognize the tension between the First Amendment and the prohibition of, conduct that's harassing or unwanted, et cetera. If you go to the Office of Civil Rights Q&A, you will see that they recognize that you've always got to ask yourself, what are the competing interests and which way more? It is fact specific every time. So, it's a question we discuss every single time as to how to balance that statutory obligation against the constitutional right. And I don't know that we've had a situation yet that we do not have that conversation.
So you don't feel that the gentleman, who calls women the Air Force, or that tells students of other religious faiths that, they're whole people, or that tells students who have orientation that is not, a sexual orientation that's not what he agrees with, that they are abominations, God hates them, and they're going to burn in hell, even if he is not directing that at a person, are you saying it's impossible for me to feel harassed as a woman that he says those things?
I am not saying that. And again, I think as the president has said, my personal feelings about any issue is simply not relevant. What's relevant is whether or not the law recognizes something there that requires us to take action. And in such a way that it might impinge upon somebody's constitutional right. We look at that. We record events for just that purpose, so that we can take a look and say, how does this balance out? So I understand what you're saying, the president, take that over, but.
And just so you have a sense of some history here, actually this preceded my arrival here, but the individual you're referring to, actually came to campus a few years ago, and at that time, the campus took some steps to limit his access to campus. We ended up losing a lawsuit over that, and paying penalty. So, legally, we've been told with no uncertain terms that there are boundaries to how much control we can exercise in limiting him or anyone else coming to campus to say things that some of us may consider to be objectionable.
I'm not even suggesting limiting someone's access to campus, but I'm talking about placement and how it affects the students and the faculty and the staff. Her office is right by the south patio. Her window opens onto it. She has no choice but to listen to the diatribe every time he comes. She can't avoid it if she wants to do her job. Students going from this half of campus over to the cafeteria can't avoid them unless they take a huge circuitous route.
Yeah.
Placement. I'm not saying that the man can't say what he wants to say, but if there were someone sitting in South Patio shouting racial slurs and other things, how is that any different?
If I could just
Sure.
talk about, it's my window to faces, and I find myself in a position of acting like a sentinel almost, solidarity and warning everyone else, don't go to the cafeteria because there's that entrance where he's at. At this point, I cannot take those images out of my head. And and the thing is, if I could just get a warning, all of us, on tectons maybe, the day before they're coming, then we would know to be prepared. But we've had students who would not go to the library to study because they didn't want to have to be subjected to that. And then I was going to lunch and there's the truck. And again, those are not images you can avoid. And for some of us, due to medical or other reasons, some of us, females, have gone through this procedure. And it's not something that we felt that enough if we didn't just generalize it, but it's this idea that we get no warning whatever that they're coming, or to say, okay, ladies, come to the cafeteria, or, don't go to the parking lot, because clearly you cannot time it. And I know that they went by right at lunchtime when most of us were walking towards our car, nor by the pit. There's no avoiding those images, and if it just gets in terms of warning,
talking about some ways to get, and again, any information that we provide about individuals coming to campus, the only caveat I would say is, again, we have to be content neutral. So, I mean, we would provide information probably on a weekly basis or something like that of everybody that has indicated a desire to come to campus for any reason. Now, the other thing that there is a difference in policy between what we call affiliated individuals and non-affiliated individuals. So, affiliated individuals or groups would be those that would be sponsored by a student or faculty organization, a legitimate organization or group of students and faculty on campus. Obviously, those as you know, for example, if a department is inviting a guest speaker to come and give a lecture in Derry Hall auditorium, you know, that's I mean, it's a similar kind of situation, you know, but there you've got a registered student organization or faculty group that's in charge of that. That's a little different than just anybody walking in off the street.
But it's also contained, you can
Yeah,
avoid
well,
that.
you're right. What I'm getting at is by policy, you know, the tricky part is to sort of separate these things in ways that make sense operationally, but still maintain the fact that we're content neutral. We're not making a judgment over whether we endorse or oppose what they have to say. We can't be put in a situation where we're picking and choosing who can come to campus. That clearly puts us in violation of people's First Amendment rights. And so that's where the trick comes in. And I think we're getting a little better about this. And the other thing is we've got to consistently enforce what we say we're going to do. If we make an exception for one group because we like them, then we basically decided up front that we made an exception for everybody, whether we like them or not. Okay? Does that make sense? But as far as the alerts go, you know, we can get information out to the campus as long as you realize that it's going to be a little bit, I wouldn't say a data dump, but it will be a listing of every group or individual that's coming to campus that week and what they're doing. So at least you have that information. It's listed.
What is the definition of a public space, and then why are certain groups allowed on heavily student-populated areas?
Do we have a definition of we do, don't we? Definition of a public space?
Yes, we do.
Okay. What is our definition of a public space?
According to the Tennessee Board of Regents policy, we can designate areas that can be used for non-affiliated. And we tend to put non-affiliated with affiliated, South Patio, for example. It's just easier. Previously, prior to losing the lawsuit in 2012, the designation for non-affiliated was Sherlock Park or the North Patio, and that was it. And we lost on that because we were talking about, you know, students moving in, speeches meant for an audience generally, and they pushed us and we lost, pure and simple. So when you talk about the space, we can designate it, but the law says it can't be on the back 40.
And you know, if I'm misstating this, I mean, there have been a number of campuses that have attempted over the years to designate very specific free speech zones, okay? Generally speaking, those have not helped out. Is that
Not for students, that we could possibly not affiliate. So it is, keeps lawyers employed, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, you better stay.
What specifically puts them in violation?
Well, if they violate our policy, if they violate our policy, And there are some restrictions in there about, that they are, we expect them not to, physically touch anyone. We expect them not to, prevent normal, egress, around campus. In other words, don't be disruptive to the normal operations of the campus, okay? Now, and there's some judgment in here, because what is normal operation? Again, if we allow some groups to, for example, have loudspeakers, and then we deny others to use amplification, then, we're probably in violation of our own policy. Okay, so, but in general, I would say anything would put them in violation if they went beyond our normal policy and did something that was overly disruptive to the operation of the campus. Now we had a case, individual was on campus, last week? And actually, because
April 23rd, the county.
because Centennial Plaza is under construction, by policy, he had, I don't know, how far in advance did he ask? A couple of weeks?
5 days.
5 days.
Policy allows for 5 days.
5 days in advance, he requested permission to come to campus, and so he selected north patio, of the options that he had available. Well, he didn't like that because there was nobody there. And, he attempted to move to another location, and that put him in violation of our policy. And he was asked to go back to north patio, and I think his decision at that point was to pack up the roof.
No, we went to the public sidewalk, which we
Okay.
have no control, that's the lawsuit we lost. That area right in front of, the building is a public sidewalk, different rules apply.
Forward on there.
Yeah.
The billboards that they had in front of the library.
For the library.
Do we not have a policy on what people are allowed to bring on campus to exercise their First Amendment rights? And that it pertains to building of billboards and placards that were extremely large. This wasn't your average protester sign. These were deliberate attempts to erect billboards.
Oh, no question. Next this is second campus I faced this with. Images, I think, fall under freedom of expression. And so, again, I think this gets into the issue of disruptive to the campus normal operating. And this is an area we're gonna probably go back and take another look at our policy and see if we need to refine some things and make it a little bit better. I didn't like the fact that they would set up in front of the library, personally. I'm not gonna prevent them from coming to campus for the reasons we've already stated. But I don't like them set up in front of the library. The problem is, though, we've allowed other groups to set up in front of the library. And so, if we'd have pressed the issue then with them, we would lose.
But
No question.
Yeah.
Can we take that out of the option?
We're gonna look at it.
Yes, I just heard, yes indeed.
We're
Yeah.
gonna look at it. And I think there's some ways that we can better craft a policy that will give us, a little better control over the operating issues of campus, for legitimate reasons, and still keep us well within the, spirit and intent of the law. Does that make sense? But, my understanding is the images, just like somebody talking, freedom of expression and it's protected speech.
Can we not then incorporate those rules that make us adhere to the city rule about the sidewalk into the sites of advertising? Because you can't put a billboard just anywhere in the city. Can we not incorporate this onto the campus rules, or is that not allowed? To say like the size of the placard?
There are
No,
certain-
you cannot bring something that big, you have to use.
There are certain certain things we can do, but it will apply to everyone. In this case, we did not have that ability, right? Just, when we wrote that policy, we wasn't thinking about that problem that day,
No,
right?
they're gonna do because they get smarter and they know the rules too, they're not dumb, they're not giving up their stupid, so they're gonna try to circumvent whatever you put on paper, but it's one of, you cannot foresee what they're gonna come.
But there's gotta be a rational basis. It can't be because we don't like the size of that particular person's billboard. It's gotta be a rational basis, business related. And it will affect students, it will affect student organizations. And in the moment you say student organizations can only have signs this size as well, you have undercut whatever your business reason was for making, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
not saying, that's not definitely on the list of consideration. It's just not as easy as it seems at first glance.
She was waiting, let me get her first.
I've done some research about the pro-life activists that live in campus, and in the state of Tennessee, we do not have a law that says that they are restricted on how big their signs are, but there are different states that are pushing for reform for that. I think it was a big battle in Wisconsin about 2 years ago, and they're not allowed to show the signs in Wisconsin at all.
No, I can understand. Yeah, obviously we have to work within the framework where we are, so, but I certainly understand that.
At what point does speech become hate speech and then it become obscene?
You know, you're gonna have to deal with that one too. I mean, that's it's a tough call.
Expanding, that's another part of the research that I was doing, and an obscene image is any image that depicts gore, sexual action, and those are definitely gore depictions.
The official legal definition of obscenity, applies to it. And help me here, prurient interest is beyond the norms of the community, and there's one more, but the Supreme Court said years ago, yeah, that's the thing, but you know it when you see it. That literally is the legal standard. So if you're gonna go out on obscenity, you better have a really good case, because there's just not a whole lot that gets struck down for obscenity because of the looseness. It's not, and it's just not well defined in the law. That's all there is to it. It's a lawsuit. I mean, you can litigate that thing if you want to, or if you want to. It's up to you, what if he wants. Or the Attorney General's office, actually. So, there we go.
And what about hate speech? I mean, what defines?
Hate speech, yeah, hate speech.
I mean, still part of that. Hate speech can be a component of a crime, but speech by itself, unless it incites to riot, and help me here, stop a minute, unless it incites to violence, is generally protected speech.
You guys recorded the video, or you recorded that incident. Did you watch the video?
Which incident?
The most recent one where the individual came and had the signs that were telling people they're going to hell.
The Dirty Dancing fornicator
Yeah.
sandwich board,
Yeah.
I've seen it before, I haven't seen this one, but
He was there. He yelled in my face that I was gonna burn in hell. That is violent. That is painful. He told me of the torment that I would endure because I don't fit his box of normality. He told me that God hates me. That God hates people like me. That is.
Let me just say,
it's not very persuasive. His approach is a little.
the Westboro Church.
Right.
The Westboro Church people, they actually are from East Tennessee, kind of part of the community. They showed up at that kind of community for burial or something. And their speech that we know, does everybody know what their speech is? Somebody help me. It's
God hates pencil.
God, because America. God hates dead soldiers because, or God killed, you know, these soldiers because America loves facts, or something like that, right? It's fact. The Supreme Court 2 years ago upheld their right to stand at a funeral and say that. And that is, so I hear what you're saying, but the law simply protects speech unless it is actively inciting actively inciting violence.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a classic example, you can't stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire.
That's pretty much,
But that, short of that, I mean, it's pretty much wide open.
So, what I'm hearing is that because we're rational people and we don't really necessarily take them seriously, however harassed and upset we may feel, that because we do not engage in violent activity towards them, then we have no cause to complain, and that we have no cause to call what they're doing hate speech, or aggressive, or harassment, or violent.
I think if you became violent against them, you would be.
Right, exactly. But I mean, at what point is it, to me, the truck going around campus in the state of Tennessee in November elections, abortion was essentially made illegal on the state level. And so to me, the truck driving around campus and the giant billboards in front of the library, to me, there was no other purpose. They have no agenda to push here. It's already been made illegal in this state, so what other purpose is there except to harass and to try to instigate something so that they can get themselves on the news? I don't know their reasons. It doesn't matter. I don't even necessarily disagree with their core point of view. I disagree with the way they represented it. I'm not going to, you know, if I decide that all fraternities are rape factories, which I don't. I don't. But let's just say that I or some other misguided person decided that was the case. Am I allowed to put up giant billboards and talk about how, you know, all frat boys are rapists? Is that acceptable? At what point is it crossing a line and becoming just harassment for harassment's sake?
I had a lot of stuff to tell the class I was in. One is that our rights ended at the beginning of the other person's nose. And I'm not saying punch them, because then you're screwed. But I'm just saying, you know, it's like, it's almost like what you would have to do to get these people off campus, which you don't want to do. So the lines, I mean, it's like, it has to become a physical issue before anything can be done, and then you basically it's counterproductive. You're just getting into this vicious cycle. You just have to walk away, and maybe if you're lucky, you can have the support of the bikers that showed up at the cemetery and block these hateful people from the actual burial. And you know, nobody wants to mess with a biker. I know I don't, and my husband looks like a biker. The thing is, like, they blocked them so they would not see it. They could still hear it, but they protected them.
You know, the Supreme Court said here in the 1940s sometime, the answer to speech you don't like is more speech. And that's, I just, we have to be careful because there's a heckler's veto. Don't even get me started on that. But I guess I just think back over the years and all the speech that was deemed unacceptable and hateful. Speech related to LGBT rights, speech related to race, speech related to women's right to vote. And I say, who gets to say which speech is?
Yeah, I think that's, obviously, we're focusing a lot right now on these things that we personally find difficult or objectionable. I mean, clearly, we also all benefit and have benefited substantially by the fact that there is freedom of expression in the United States. I mean, you look worldwide, and that's not the case, and you see a very dramatic difference in what we enjoy and benefit from here. But this sword cuts both ways, and so that's the tricky part. Yeah.
Isn't there a line when it becomes personal, when they start pointing out people specifically and attacking them on an individual level? I understand going and and presenting your case to the masses. But when they start saying, hey, you Muslim over there, you're going to hell, singling people out, I feel like is there any, like, is that taken into account in any way?
No.
Well, we run the tape, and if someone says, I was singled out, we'll run the tape and review that, and a lot of times, the person who either was singled out or felt singled out will probably not like the answer because of that balancing thing that has to be.
Well, and I'll share with you what I indicated. I think this was maybe 2 years ago when that individual came to campus. I was standing for a couple of minutes. I didn't stay there very long. Well, one student I stood next to, and he leaned over and he said, man, this makes me so mad. And I said, you don't have to stay here. I mean, you don't have to stand here and listen to it. And it was funny. His reaction was, "You're right." And I think he eventually walked off. So.
But someone with an office there does have to.
Yes.
Well, and that's some things in policy we'll probably look at. I mean, one thing I'm personally concerned about is making sure that, particularly non-affiliated groups, there has to be a certain distance from buildings and particularly main entry points to buildings for egress. But we'll look at that and see what can stand up legally.
This could really affect admission too. I work in the admissions office and we have campus tours every day.
Yeah.
And on a given day, they're standing there in front of the cafeteria. I mean, you guys have seen them. And this is exactly where the prospective parents and students are walking to.
Yeah.
And I know you can't help it, but it's like, oh my gosh, they're gonna, for whatever reason, they may find it offensive. They may think it's great. You don't know.
You don't.
It's just that image, the first impression they get of us.
Me a question.
This isn't a question as much as it was as a statement as a student for me coming here. When I toured here, and I saw a lot of things I didn't agree with necessarily, but I actually got excited because some people exercising their right of free speech, and I'm like, well, they can do it. Surely I could say something that I'd like to be heard, and they're protecting that right. So that was actually something that encouraged me to want to come to Texas. They protected that right.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, sometimes people ask you, you're president, can't you stop these folks from coming to campus? And my response is usually, probably not. But even if I could, I wouldn't want to because of that very reason. Because I don't think anybody in this room would want me or anybody else being the censor for what is said on campus. Okay. It wouldn't be appropriate to anybody. Okay? Yeah.
Both questions here, but I don't think any of us are saying that any group should not be allowed to come on campus. Whether I agree or disagree with their point of view, completely beside the point. It's the way in which it is done that, to me, in these two specific instances, cross a line. It'd be like if someone who is, pro-abortion stood out there and screamed about, how people who are anti-abortion are pro-rape. And I mean, there are points at which it is just, and further to the point, I feel like an image that is circling our campus or giant billboards that prevent you from going to the library, they have violated the policy of harassment on Tech's campus. They've created an environment that is no longer conducive to education or to working. I got no work done for the rest of the day. I was so upset. I accomplished nothing this morning. I had piles of work to do, but I was finding information to back up my point. And at the same time, I'm like, God, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing my work. But at the same time, there was one of our student workers who said she was so uncomfortable, but had to go to the library to study. And she was like, she was almost in tears. She said, I guess I'll just put my earbuds in, turn up my music, and look at the ground. No student should have to do that, regardless of the message that's being presented.
Just in regards to, you don't have to stay. As far as the Tennessee Tech policy for employees, we talk about that an excusable absence if there is notification beforehand? If an employee says they're coming on this day, I will not be here, is that an excused absence that the university would recognize to avoid feelings?
I'm not going on record on that one.
I don't,
Well,
that sounds like an HR policy.
Well, it's just, you know, we talk about, issues, and I've always been taught to come up with solutions to problems, not to just complain about problems, but if that's something
Can
we
Well,
take into consideration.
the point about, having an environment where you have normal, ability to operate, that is a valid concern, okay? That is a very valid concern. And again, I think it goes back to balancing these interests in a way that is reasonable and makes sense. And we'll continue to look at that, as far as placement of groups and so forth. But just so everybody knows, it's got to be content neutral.
But we know they're coming, because clearly they have to ask for a permit, correct? So that, again, going back to my original point, if you just have a warning and then.
Well, and we'll do that, we'll definitely
You know,
work on that.
take time to along, I know, I read them conflict.
The other thing I would say is, it doesn't take what was it, the politician said, a rocket surgeon? Doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that, some of these folks, that's their thing to generate interest, is controversy. They want to stir up controversy. That's how they get an audience, okay? If that is if it's an offensive message to you, the best way to combat that is to ignore it. Because if actually they want engagement. They want you to yell back. They want you to argue with them. That creates a sense of controversy and engagement, and actually attracts more people to the conversation. So if it really is offensive to you, the best thing to do is just ignore them, and that's probably the best way to keep them off campus. If they don't get an audience, I can assure you they're not going to keep coming back.
We believe that's why the person packed up and left last week, because there was no gathering. But we don't know, he just disappeared, because we like to think that.
Inform patrols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Associated with don't feed patrol.
Don't feed the troll. I'll have to remember that. Yes.
Let's plan them in.
I'm here, came a little bit late, but trust me, I stopped here before I went to my advisors meeting. Because what you answered me on this question, I'm gonna ask you is to determine whether I even enroll in the school for another semester.
Sure.
My issue is with the professors within the halls of academia here at this school using profanity. And I'm talking about the 4-letter explicits that start with the F's and I am not a goody two-shoes, but when you're paying the tuition to sit within a classroom, and that is going on from the professor himself. How, that what you said about just leaving and ignoring it, I'm a paying student here, and I paid to come, and I came from an old school of thought, and I'm sorry for those of you that I'm a little bit older, I came from an era where you respected your professors, your teachers, you sit in a classroom environment, you're there to learn, you pay the tuition, and you really want to learn. I don't want to listen for 2 hours to the kind of conversation that I've had here this semester, and I'm brand new here. So I'm a new student, and I'm not your traditional student, but there is a degree of respectability that should be from the professors, and those of us that don't want to hear the F word and what coming out of the mouth of a professor that you're supposed to be learning from. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, I'll give you my own personal experience and perspective. Personally, I don't appreciate it. I don't condone it myself. I'm very supportive of academic freedom, obviously. And there are things that some faculty members will choose to do that I don't personally agree with. I support their right and their ability to do it, as long as it has a true educational mission, associated with it. And that gets a little tricky, but I think there are norms within some disciplines, that come into play. I think a conversation with that faculty member is very appropriate. Chances are, in my experience, it probably wouldn't go very far, with an individual, but, with the individual department head and possibly the dean. If, again, I think some peer evaluation from colleagues in that department is sometimes appropriate to say, this is a little out of bounds, you need to rein it in here. I think that's the way the academy should work, it should function. Not, academic freedom, is something faculty all enjoy, but it's not licensed to do anything and everything they want to do, okay? There has to, and the courts have upheld this. The courts indicate that academic freedom really rests with the institution. So for example, just a kind of a far-flung example here. A faculty member that's teaching, my background's chemistry. If I'm teaching chemistry and I start giving lengthy lectures on my own political persuasion or religious persuasion, that's not protected in academic freedom. Okay, now to your point about use of language, there are some content areas where teachers would be teaching that, somebody could argue that it's appropriate use of language. But in other subjects it may not be. So that's where there's some judgment has to be applied. But based on what you seem to be telling me, this seems to be extreme.
It was very extreme, and it wasn't anything in the textbook that was being discussed at the time that these conversations were created. And when they were ongoing, they were actually being instigated by this professor's language himself, and then also encouraging it in the students. And I am the oldest student in the room, and I'm not gonna stand up and go, because I was already called out for being even Christian. I need to challenge that in the classroom environment, which should not have been an issue. We weren't discussing religion. But the thing about that, I wanted to make sure within the classroom environment, whether you're a paying student, a disabled student that gets to attend the class for free, there still should be a level of respect. I don't care what age you are.
No question.
And when you're returning to school, between the student and the professor, I stopped calling him professor.
I'd be, if you've got some time, either today or later, I'd be
I'm
happy to talk to you
everybody
about this
else.
one.
You don't want to create and I'm just a junior here, and I've been, well, I still have a couple of years to go. If I start coming in and rattling chains, and this is my transitional semester here, so if I come in and start causing problems, I still have to
Well,
deal.
I understand and I appreciate that, but clearly if it's an issue for you, it's probably an issue for
It was
others
not
as
just
well.
me within this classroom, there were others who wouldn't speak up about it, but it's just, you don't expect a professor to throw out the F word and enjoy it and conversation. I wanted to ask you, you're a president now,
I appreciate that.
I just want to address this. I've worked at 4 universities and I've also worked at Tech. And as a professor, I'm offended by what you just said. So that is certainly not indicative or representative of faculty at Tech.
I met the other English department professors. Just received an award for writing, an essay that got first place.
Well, you're
I
certainly
was
very
really,
articulate.
I was very impressed by the other English professors that I met at the luncheon the other day. But trust me, you do not know, having dealt with this one particular area of the school here, you do not know, I can take my money on this.
Having 15 years of experience, you almost see it all. So absolutely, and I'm appalled by what you just said. So I just want you to know.
I didn't mean to.
No, you didn't offend me. I'm embarrassed by that professor's behavior.
I just want to point out, there is a mechanism to file an anonymous complaint.
I realize that. I studied law for the last 3 years, and I'll be honest with you, I don't want to go that route.
Okay, well, that's how things get addressed, as people stand on their rights.
Well,
I mean, so.
I just wondered what the school's policy was on that.
Okay.
But it's not, no, because,
Lawsuits, absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But, but just as in any case, I don't wanna make this about this particular fellow, but when you have a one issue through, they are well schooled. Cause that's all they do, unlike the rest of us who have a bunch of stuff to do, they only have one thing to do. And, they're good at it. So, they know the line, they know the law on inciting violence, and they will walk right up to it. You know, Ed Boucher, who stands out there, all day long.
Well, I don't know if you should. They will even make multiple contacts at the institution to try to get a slightly different story from one person versus another, which gives them.
A void for vagueness challenge to the policy. Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I can write books.
they're good at what they do.
Oh, they are very good, and what you know what, but they're good at defending what they believe to be their First Amendment rights. I just want to make it clear, that's their belief, and,
You know, I don't know how much money they actually make.
we might suspect, whether or not individual speakers, but I think personally, there's absolutely no evidence for this. I think their lawyers buy second houses on the beach, exploiting things.
I don't think those individuals necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think that.
The legal team behind them probably does.
They're doing okay.
Now, as students who pay tuition, do we have the right to petition these groups to not coming? Because I mean.
Well, you could certainly petition. Again, I mean, legally, we cannot pick and choose who can come to campus. So, you know, I don't know that we've ever had this conversation. I guess we could have a very extremely tight policy that prevented almost everybody from coming.
We can do that.
I mean,
We could shut it down.
We could shut it down and not allow anybody from outside to come to campus. I'm not sure that.
So I mean, like, even though we're public, because I know, like, they have, like, WeThePeople.org where people can petition against certain things or petition for certain things. Is there no way for the students to, if they're tired of this, and we know in advance, could they rise up, petition, send the university this petition saying that we as students do not want these individuals because they interrupt campus affairs?
Well, again, I don't think, absolutely you can petition, okay? You can petition anything you want to write a petition. You know, we could not withhold access to campus to them as opposed to somebody else. Now, if you petition, I guess it said we don't want anybody to set up in front of the library, that would be more actionable on our part, right? And we could put the front of the library off balance to everybody. Okay? But that's real fun. Let me get back here real quick.
What is the policy or procedure the same for a student group that wanted to express free speech, like facility use application? How do they go about, scheduling something like that?
Okay, do you want?
Student groups, we handle it two different ways. Affiliated groups are handled through student affairs, and they're approved by our UNEP's office and our ocean line. They have more availability than other non-affiliated groups. I just schedule the non-affiliated groups in my office to visit.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a student-related group and a student-invited group?
Well, I think that's the same thing. It's basically there's some organization, legitimate organization attached to campus, whether it's a student organization or an academic department or some such thing that is serving as host to that group. So if a fraternity, for example, were to bring a speaker to campus, or campus pretty often, don't we? Yeah, I mean, student organization, I mean, what was the, was it Red Bus?
Red Bus Project.
Project, was that a, was that a,
It wasn't a non-affiliated.
that was a non-affiliated?
No, it was not.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay, so it was a,
I think it was a student group, it was over by the towns.
okay, okay.
But I don't, we haven't traced it down, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I was.
But, you know, if
Habitat for Humanity.
Habitat for Humanity wants to come to campus and, set up, you know, a display or whatever, you know, with, you know, in cooperation with a fraternity or sorority or something, you know, that's the way to do that. Yes.
So, appreciating what you said earlier about the challenges in making everybody aware of these individuals coming to campus, affiliated and unaffiliated groups, can you write, like, I understand that that you can't pick one over the other kind of thing, you can't pick a side. So is there, like, can you organize it, like, write a disclaimer I mean, on the page or whatever, the email that you said, that we aren't choosing a side, we're just letting you know what's going on. Here are the affiliated, or the things that are affiliated with the college, and then these are the things that are going on that are unaffiliated with the college, and just like.
Yeah, we can list it that way as,
Well, it should be easier.
what the sponsoring, who the sponsoring group is, if there is one, and if they're unaffiliated, then we can list it. Yeah.
On that note, say you were to do something like that, would the student or student group have the right to be anonymous, and they don't have to go say, we're the people who invited these people, or do they have to have it?
No, I think they have to have their, yeah, I think I assume through student affairs that you have to file the paperwork that says who the sponsoring organization is.
It does state the student sponsor and also gives a contact for that student group.
Okay, gotcha.
Disclosure on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
And they have to sign the annotation.
Gotcha.
I think that, in keeping with all the stuff that was said about not choosing sides, it's important to remember that there are some protests that we individually might like, and there are some that we don't like, and we wouldn't all agree on which ones are which. But it's important to keep in mind that a protest is not a protest unless it's disruptive, and unless it forces people who don't agree with it to be confronted with it. That's how protests that we might like have worked in the past. So the alternative is have none whatsoever, and then who are we?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, this will be the last one.
Okay.
Now, I was just wondering because what my idea is I know that there's not a whole lot that we can do about making these people not come here. And I mean, I did
Well,
feel like.
I think there is.
That was
You
what I
know
was
it.
gonna say, is that if you can let us know, I know I can get a group of people that can go raise our voices louder than they can raise theirs.
But see,
No, we met with one.
But-
that's exactly what you
love is the, all positive as opposed to a negative.
That's what gets them on the evening news.
That's what gets us sued on a heckler's veto. There is a thing called a heckler's veto. Listen, I just read the law, I don't make it, okay? But
I just wanna understand it.
No, and I'll be happy if you'll talk to me, I'll send you the case on it, but you can't, once you say this is open for speech, you've got to allow speech. Now,
So we can come and bring our signs.
you absolutely can come, but you cannot, put a message, although I have seen this happen, and I'd rather do it, but you can't put a megaphone and drown out the speech. Once we say, okay, I'm a lawyer, that's all I heard.
It's totally figurative. Our voice louder than theirs, meaning that we are love, we are positive, they're like, hey, we're gonna counter that with.
Okay, and I'll just say, I'm not an expert in this, but I'll say this, although that might make you feel better, okay, emotionally, you have probably given them more credibility. Because you've drawn more attention to what they're doing.
And it's, I don't necessarily think that attention is bad. I think that people need to be aware of what is going on. I think that people.
Then you're doing the right thing. You know, yeah, all I'm saying is be aware of what your speech or your action does for whatever you're trying to.
Correct.
They take tactics, they assume tactics, not necessarily because they're bad people or whatever, but because it gets attention, because it helps what they're trying to accomplish.
I was thinking organizing groups to bring their iPods with earbuds and have just large groups of students walk directly by, look at the ground and know that
I think the best thing to do is just stay away.
Stand and
If
stay away.
you're not there, I mean, if that's your perspective, then
Can we
just.
post signs that say don't go this way?
Well, you couldn't do that, but you could potentially post signs maybe that said, fair warning, there is, this is going to be going on here. If you go this way, you could be offended or upset, it's your own choice. And I think most reasonable people would say, oh, I'm gonna avoid this then.
Does
But
that
that's the same idea as notifying.
Does that violate the permit?
Right.
Well, I think we probably have an issue with if somebody was erecting other signs without permission, then there would be.
No, but can we walk around those signs? I mean, it was there,
Yeah.
saying.
And they did it every night, people do it in half.
Okay, so my question is, I've seen the application process go down, I still have a reserved space. So say someone reserves space in the library, but then you have someone like, can you do an example? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, come alongside and they have their signs. They didn't reserve that space, but they wanna make an alternative message. Do they have the right to be there if that's not reserved for someone else?
You know, call Susan Henry if you're a student, call Diane Smith if you're other, and get yourself a permit. Simple as that.
Wait, I'm sorry, what is it?
Just call student, if for students, call student, activities and get yourself a permit. Sometimes we don't allow certain group, depending on what's gonna happen, I mean, we do manage space. But,
It is a.
So like small groups versus large groups, so their group is little, I'm one person with a sign, you'll leave me alone, but if I bring a crowd of people that are protesting.
we manage
anything,
space. We don't manage how many people there are, we manage ingress and egress, et cetera.
And there are
We don't
requests,
have-
there are requests that we turn down for legitimate operating reasons, okay? And it is sort of on, I guess, a first come, first served basis, right? So, I mean, we don't, if we have multiple groups for some reason that want to come at the same time and the same space, and then, that, we manage that, okay, so that doesn't happen. Those are legitimate, institutional concerns that we can operate.
When they request a permit, do they say, we want to come 3 times this year and these are the things we want, or do they do it on a case by case?
In this instance, they asked for 3 days in a row, they only came 2 of those 3 days.
Okay.
But they're not asking you like a month ahead, because then that's when they're gonna come back again the next
They
quarter.
have to give me at least 5 days notice, but they can only come as many as 4 times in 1 month. There is a limit. It's online, and for the students, it's in your student handbook, and it's online, so it's available for.
We can make exceptions to 4 times a month. Another university got sued by this group on that issue in law. So
I've
it's not a
never
hard and
had
fast
anybody-
rule, but it's one.
I've not had anybody ask for more than 4 times.
It's hard to put limits on the First Amendment.
Especially just precedent, when they want suits, you're not gonna wanna go toe to toe when you know you're gonna lose this point.
Well, the Attorney General won't represent us. I mean, we can take a stand, President Oldham could say enough's enough today, and, to heck with whatever the law says. But the Attorney General has to represent this university, and trust me, we take a stand, and I always say, let me call the AG and make sure they'll stand up for us.
And so everybody, I mean, personally, I'm not afraid of lawsuits. I get threatened by lawsuits all the time. That doesn't bother me. But at the same time, there's no sense in pushing something that you pretty much guaranteed to lose. I mean, there's gotta be a very compelling, reason to do it in that kind of situation. And so, and I think the pro-life group that was here set up in front of the library. I personally did not want them in front of the library. And I tried to, I worked with Kay and others to find every way possible so that they wouldn't be right in front of the library. Okay? The problem was we had allowed other groups to be in front of the library. And so I knew immediately that if we were pushed on that, we would lose. We would lose. And there was no, yeah.
Is there no way to designate areas specifically for students at the school?
And not allow any other groups?
Yes, just.
Yeah, I think there is. I think we can do that. And that's what I was alluding to.
I understand the library
and-
should just be in an area only the students should.
I think we can designate spaces like that. And I think we can designate certain times of the year. You know, I really don't want any unaffiliated groups on campus, during dead week and finals week.
Yeah, well, and I mean, even just a few weeks before finals, in front of the library,
Yeah.
a lot of students were finishing up their work,
Sure.
finishing up their finals,
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
But again, you know, it's almost impossible to write a 100% perfect policy. And everybody needs to understand that. And it's even harder when you're dealing with this kind of dynamic to ensure that it is 100% implemented in every case. Because again, if we make an exception on any situation by this policy and somebody presses it, you know, if it could be perceived as being a content-related reason why we pick and choose one group over another, then we would lose. So, it's tricky, yeah.
When we're saying hate speech is only hate speech, when it happens, are we informed at all by organizations that have religion hate speech, perhaps another hate speech, when we make a decision about allowing on
Now, clearly, I mean, word gets around, obviously. If there is a group that is causing legitimate problems on other campuses, you know, we would know about it, and we would probably exercise as much discretion as possible under those conditions. I'm not aware of any, since I've been here, that would be the case, that would rise to that level.
Is anything in the permit process where there's some kind of pre-screening going on?
No, I don't think
In
so.
terms of, how they behave?
Now I will say this, you know, if a group came to campus and they were their behavior acting in a certain way that clearly was disruptive and causing safety or other issues on campus, we would and absolutely could take action at that point to remove them from campus.
Well, we can let past behavior on other campuses inform our decision for the permit.
Not for permitting. We can look at past experience on our campus, and in a completely unrelated event, we have turned down a facilities use application where the group the last time tore up some property. You know, we just turned it down based on the property. It's not content. But these very well tutored groups are not tearing up any property. You know what I mean? That's just too easy. So, but we do. I mean, there is the lawyers talk. You know you got something coming. What did you do? You call around and talk about, you know, how it was managed and what to expect. Cameras are, when you see a camera out there, you know that somebody has talked to somebody and somebody said that's going to be a good idea in case there's a problem.
And actually, we have pretty much a standard practice now of videoing groups that come to campus.
Certain groups.
Certain groups in particular. And you know, it's not that we necessarily expect anything to happen, but we will have a record of it if and when it does. Because otherwise you get into situations where they say this, we say something else, and, you know.
But the one individual is also videoing everything we say back to them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Diane's probably on YouTube.
Yeah,
you're probably on YouTube as well.
Got a question back here in the back.
I was wondering if there's anything that can be done in the case of graphic images, such as the group that was the pro-life group in front of the library a few weeks ago. My concern wasn't so much that they were there and had those images, as it was that they did not seem to have adequate trigger warnings in the case of students that have had past emotional trauma.
Yep.
And so I was wondering if there was something that could be done about that, so that those students would know to be able to avoid that before being exposed to those images.
We don't have a trigger warning, mostly you don't know what's going to trigger. Now, there's some things you do know, okay? But you just don't know everything that's going to, that trigger warnings are trigger business.
Yeah.
But I think, Dr. Oldham, to your point related to, we're going to find a way to list the groups that are on there. I think it's going to be incumbent on all of us to figure out what you can tolerate and what you can't. But I think getting that information out so people can make an informed decision
Absolutely.
is the best thing to do legally.
Sounds like you're saying that wellness is sort of cuts both ways.
Well, it does, and, you know, my point of view is that, and particularly as an educational institution, I mean, the worst thing we can do is shut down freedom of expression. Even though some of these things can be extremely irritating and annoying to us, and frustrating at times, that's far better than to not have true freedom of expression and be able to get new, I mean, where do new ideas come from? And, you know, as it's been pointed out, you know, any student of history will quickly find all the paradigm shifts in the world typically started out in a very controversial way, and often very traumatic kind of way, but we benefit from it. So, you know, and my belief is that good ideas resonate and grow legs. Bad ideas disappear ultimately.
I wanted to say something that occurred to me. We were talking about pro-life people and the other affiliations. I found that in groups like that, sometimes that actually helps the other people too, because they see the images or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is what they're representing on the other direction, so the other side. So sometimes people just have the wrong mindset of why the people are here. Like they're trouble. Sometimes they can actually go the other way. Like encourage to go the other side.
I agree.
Okay, are there any bullying laws or anti-bullying laws that in the books that apply? Like, I'm just thinking about what she went through where he was like in her face.
Someone did that to me in high school, they would have been, you know, punished severely for that, in a public high school. So we're saying that it is in a public high school, but not at the.
There's a huge difference between what's allowable in K through 12 and higher ed. It's two different sets of laws.
But it's no different.
But if you
No
think,
different. It's the same exact thing.
if you, I said it before, if you think you're being bullied, there may be a criminal statute that applies. I'm looking at Ed, we talked about this a couple of years ago, so I haven't looked at this recently. There may be a criminal statute applies, but that's on you, not on this university. That's a personal event. So we don't get involved in criminal action.
There are actually, what is, there's like 4 or 5 different definitions of bullying. I mean, there's not complete unanimity of thought in society about what constitutes bullying.
And again, it does not apply to the university protecting
That's Title IX.
the victim per se.
That's Title IX or Title 6 or 88. And again, you're balancing now as opposed to not the First Amendment by accident. You know, it's number one in the list, because it weighs a lot. Carries a lot of weight.
Terribly unfair, I know. Or point saying that to high school and it's totally unfair.
And I understand what you're saying, maybe there is a difference between minors and adults, but is that saying that it's okay for children to bully other children and we'll take care of that, but if an adult is being bullied by another adult, well, that's okay, because they're adults, so
Well,
they should be.
I think no matter what the definition of bullying you apply to, I think
So
there
someone
almost
can
has
get
to
in
be
my face
well, I
and
think
say
there almost has
things.
to be a perceived, significantly perceived or real power differential, involved so that, you know.
No, it's the same power. For instance, my younger sister was bullied in school for being transgender. She's now a boy. And someone beat her up. The court got involved with that.
Sure.
And we can't, there's no way
Well,
for the court to get involved.
You're talking about assault now, right? Absolutely. If you or anybody else was assaulted on campus, absolutely.
But the assault happened afterwards.
It always turns on, and it depends, right? That's what Lonnie always say, it depends. It turns on the specific fact as to which interest weighs more in that particular moment. There is no, I hear what you're saying, but you gotta look at what happened, how it happened, what rights are being exercised or protected, and make a call. And that's what courts do every single time. There's no right.
So we have courts.
So this guy, if he takes a gun, he would confront him possibly to some kind of university. If you are an adult.
Okay. Is there any way that I can have access to this video that we got of this incident?
Which is the
The one with the
preacher
that I
preacher is being
yes.
I don't even know where it is.
We can, sure, I could possibly can go to YouTube and he's already posted it, an edited version, but we can, like, we've got the video. They're consulting.
Okay. Do you have the videos of the preacher when he comes to campus? She would like to see one in my house.
And what we can do, and what we have done, maybe using clients here, but what we have done is set up that video and make it available on a computer for somebody to just come in and watch it at their leisure rather than us.
Absolutely unedited.
Okay. Does that sound right?
Maybe after we get through this.
So the planner, if you will, it's such an inappropriate way of putting it that it means thinking, oh my gosh, what about legislature that's going to allow schools to allow students to bring guns to their campus? How do we have, is that even, because I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, you can't open a war zone. A student confronts somebody and they get really mad and they have a gun.
You talking about guns on campus?
Yeah. What if they No, I'm saying here, but there's legislature where they're trying to allow guns on parks, and then they're trying to, some universities have.
Good opportunity to exercise their freedom of speech.
This is why I know that, because some colleges did say, it's just terrifying, I was like, what? Because it's Virginia Tech thing. Some of them argued that if they had had a gun, they could take them to the shooter there. That was their argument, and it was Saturday, one, I'm thinking,
Okay, I'll give you one more.
Okay, no, I'm gonna ask, never mind, I'll save my one.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Would you like?
I was actually something really unrelated to ask you. I'm spent environmental and sustainability studies at college, biology, I'm on the other side. But and that's new. We've run into a couple of barriers with like, as students, we're growing in college and we wanna like do things with campus and it's really not smiled upon by whoever does facilities maybe, I'm not exactly sure who the person is, but I just know that they are not very positive about us participating in sustainability, and I feel like we as students should be able to push that, and I feel like there's a lot there, and
There's
it's
good
not gonna let
conversation
us.
about, around about a community garden, I don't know where the stats are doing.
The recycling too, we do a pretty good job, but I feel like we could totally do so much better, and that says so much.
Well, and, you know, and I can certainly help,